the recording. Thank you. I am not at all precious about my presentations, so if you've got any questions, please feel free to interrupt me. You can either unmute or you can put any questions in the chat, and I'm going to ask Laura to keep an eye on the chat, and Laura can interrupt me on your behalf if that's the way you prefer. Thank you, Laura, if that's the way you prefer to ask questions. But my name is Vic Machin. For those of you who I haven't met, I think I've probably met most of you by now, and I'm the Schools and Colleges Mental Health and Emotional Wellbeing Advisor, and I am also the project manager of the WOWSI project. So today I just wanted to give you a little bit of information before the training commences in April, and the reason for this is because when we did phase 1 training, they came into the training in October and it was all really fresh and new to them, and so then they went away after the training and they then had to think about, okay, which families would be suitable, which meant that for some schools, they were great. They were like, yes, we've got a family immediately, and they were able to start the intervention. But for some schools, because they were kind of digesting the training and thinking about those families, they didn't get a chance really and to start the intervention until January, which meant they had that 3-month gap between doing the training and starting the intervention, which actually, was really tricky for them, actually, because they came to their first session and it wasn't fresh in their memory anymore. So we wanted to put in this session so that we can kind of get you to the point where after today, you can really start thinking with your colleagues at school about those families that might be suitable for the intervention, so that when you do the training in April, you can then almost have that family ready. We can even give you information that you can take away and share with any families that you've got in mind, so you don't have that lag, so you're coming to it straight from the training, if you get what I mean. So hopefully this will be really helpful, but also to allay any worries you might have about the project, and also to give you an opportunity to ask some questions. I'm also going to be just reminding you of our role in West Sussex around providing the project, and also your role in terms of what we expect our schools that are part of the project to commit to. And we're also going to be talking a little bit about our in-house evaluation, because that's something we're doing in-house. So it's not something that's covered so much in the training, because the training is from an outside provider. But there are a few people that I just wanted to highlight before we go on. Some of them are here today and some of them aren't. But for those of you, I don't think Tanya's here. I'll just have a check.
She's in Bridge House, but she's not on the meeting.
Okay, no worries. So Tanya is my manager. Tanya is the Schools and Colleges Mental Health Commissioner, and she's also the Project Commissioner for WOWSI. Tanya, for those of you who have met her, is eternally optimistic, and Tanya is the reason this project is so wide-ranging. When we decided we wanted to try out using the intervention and using it with schools, which was a brand new way of using it, I said, should we start with 20 schools? And Tanya said, no, let's go for 80. And so here we are with 80 schools. So yes, Tanya is very much the momentum behind the project, and keeps us very widely focused, I would say. And as I said, I'm the project manager, and then we do have Laura here. I'll let Laura introduce herself.
Hi, so I'm Laura Ireland. I'm the project coordinator for WOWSI. So I've been sort of helping Vic out with the phase 1 group for WOWSI, and I'm going to do the training alongside you for the phase 2.
Thank you very much. And so any emails you get are probably going to come through Laura, and any questions might get picked up by Laura, and then Laura will forward them on to me. But Laura's going to be probably your main point of contact. But the way to contact her is through the WOWSI inbox, and you can see the email address on there at the moment. And I know some of you have already been using the WOWSI inbox to send back your school agreements, which is fantastic. So thank you very, very much for that. If you could keep using the WOWSI inbox, it just means that if Laura's away or if I'm away, then one of us will pick up the emails that come through. And Fran was going to try and join us. I don't know if Fran It is. Fran, I'll let you introduce yourself and explain how you're linked into WOWSI as well.
Oh, hi everybody. So I'm Fran Parker. I'm Assistant Principal EP, and I've been overseeing the evaluations, so putting the materials together, and I'm supported by Amelia Steele, who you will have email contact with, and she helps send out and collect the evaluation schedules, and I'm available for any queries as well as time progresses with the evaluation, so you will have contact from me.
Brilliant. Thank you, Fran. So I think you can probably see from that we're quite a multidisciplinary team with a various range of backgrounds. And as you will see as we go through, we also have managed to get a really good cross-section of staff in West Sussex involved in the project. So we have early help involved, and we also have our mental health support team, Thoughtful, involved as well. So just a reminder, because it was last July when you all signed up with your expressions of interest to take part in WOWSI, which is quite a long time ago now. And I'm hoping that most of you remember what it is and what we're trying to achieve. But just a reminder of what the project is. So WOWSI itself stands for Working on Worry Support and Intervention. And the platform we're using is called WOWSI, and WOWSI stands for Online Support and Intervention for Child Anxiety. And WOWSI is an online platform that was developed by Professor Kathy Creswell at Oxford University. And it's based on her work that she did with Lucy Willits from the book here, which is called Helping Your Child with Fears and Worries. This book is a CBT-based intervention that talks parents through step-by-step how to support their children with those fears and worries that are very normal in childhood, but that we know sometimes families need that extra support with. And Kathy Creswell's book is one of our kind of manualized interventions that is used by our mental health support team, Thoughtful. So if you are a part of the Thoughtful program within your school and you've had any anxiety work that's been parent-led, you might already be familiar with some of Kathy's work, or you might at least be familiar with the kind of success. You will get the slides, yeah, Aisling, and you will also get the recording as well. So we know that Kathy's work is really, it's really where lots of evidence base is around supporting families with childhood anxiety. And so Kathy took her book and she created the online platform. And there's lots of reasons for this. Obviously, we all know that there's a number of parents who are not going to read a book to help them support their child. It might be that they are very time poor. It might be that there are issues with their literacy. It might be that they are EAL. Lots of reasons why a book actually can be a barrier to some of our parents engaging with this kind of work. But we do know that parent-led supports for anxiety for this particular age group has outcomes that are as good as, if not sometimes better, than working directly with the child. Because the parent has that kind of motivation to keep going outside of sessions, whereas a child might come to sessions and not necessarily go home and let their parent know what they've been working on, or have that motivation to do the work outside of the lesson, outside of the session. And so the online intervention was created by Kathy and her team to open up access really to the intervention. And as part of the kind of the trial of the intervention, Thoughtful. So we in West Sussex were involved in the trial process of the intervention, and we saw some excellent outcomes. So we're really, really pleased. What is different about WOWSI is that the intervention, the platform intervention, is generally used by clinicians in CAMS services and NHS services, so that they use it with their parents, and it's really cut down on their clinic time. So what WOWSI is doing that is very different is that we are training you guys in schools as the facilitators of the intervention. But we've had, and as you will see, some really good outcomes so far. So just to remind you, you saw this before and when we had the session in June and July, but there are 8 modules, 6 weekly modules, plus a kind of module 0, which is just helping the parent to log on to the app. And then the parent goes away and they work through the modules week by week, and all of the content, and you'll see in the training, is all on the website. And then what they have with you is a 20-minute check-in after each module on a weekly basis. So lots of our clinicians, lots of our team that do Aussie as part of Thoughtful, they will have these check-in sessions on the telephone, and lots of our schools have been doing that too. But it might be easier for you to have those sessions face to face because you've got the parents coming into school every day anyway. It's entirely up to you. But again, this will be discussed further at the training. Just a few notes about language. I've just touched on there that the fact that this intervention is generally used by clinicians in NHS services. So some of the language you see is quite clinical. So where it talks about a therapist, we're talking about you, our schools-based facilitators. So when you get your logins to the Aussie website, when we do the training, your login will be a therapist login, but don't worry, you're not going to be expected to be therapists. It's just the language they use. You will also see on there you'll be allocated a supervisor. Again, this is because in CAM services and NHS services, they will have clinical supervisors, but your supervisor is going to be one of our wonderful local experts. So our local experts will be running your skills groups, which are a kind of version of supervision, but they allow you to reflect on how your sessions are going with your parents, and they allow you to kind of problem solve together in a really contained and safe way. So it's really nice to have that reflective space to talk to other people about how it's going. So our local experts come from our Thoughtful team, so our mental health support team. Some of them are our educational psychologists, and some of them are our team managers from within Early Help. And then also just a note about the children that we work with on the platform are referred to as clients. We would never do that in schools, so just bear that in mind. So I wanted to first of all just touch on the successes from phase one so far. So we have monthly feedback from COA, who are the organisation who we've bought the platform, access to the platform from, and they compare our results to national results that have been gathered as part of a control trial of the platform. And you can see here, so this is one of the measures they use as the child anxiety impact scale. So the parents are asked 27 questions around anxiety at the beginning and the end of the intervention, and then we see how the impact of anxiety changes over the course of the intervention. And you can see, so the dark blue is us in West Sussex. So these are our school-based facilitators, and the turquoisey colour is the control trial, so our clinicians and CAMs. And what you can see immediately is actually the children that we're seeing actually have a higher level of impact of their anxiety to begin with than the children that are being seen in CAMs. So we are seeing children that maybe have a bit more of a complex presentation, which is interesting, than the control trial did. But we can also see that we have had excellent outcomes so far. So the impact of the anxiety on the child and family's life fell by 10 points on average over the interventions of our school-based facilitators, and within the CAM services, that impact fell by a similar level. So we are kind of matching, 9 or 10 points for them. So we're matching those outcomes in terms of journey travelled, in terms of bringing down the impact of the anxiety. So that's fantastic. And don't forget either, this is the first time. So this is from just 1 or 2 interventions. So these are people that have never ever used this kind of intervention before, and so to see that impact, which is on a par with those national outcomes from the very first interventions, is brilliant. But even better than that, our goal-based outcomes are looking fantastic. So again, the turquoise is the control trial. So these goal-based outcomes are goals that the child and family choose to work towards, and each week they decide, okay, out of 10, how close does the child feel to meeting that goal that they've decided on? And you can see at the beginning of module 1 in the control trial, they were 1.8 out of 10 confident of reaching that goal. And for us, they were a little bit lower actually, so a bit further away from that 10 out of 10 point at the beginning. But you can see by the end of module 6, we've made excellent progress with our teams. So the control trial showed that on average, a child was about a 6.1 of confidence of being able to reach that goal. And at the end of our facilitators so far, they have been seeing an average of 6.3, so slightly higher, but excellent. We can see really that, you know, all of our children are working towards those goals that they want to work towards to overcome their anxiety. And to see that much more vividly on a single case basis, that you can see this young person, so this is from one of our phase 1 schools, was working on separation anxiety. And you can see beautifully there that over the course of the 6 sessions, his anxiety has very nicely fallen over time. We can see it go up there in module 4, and that's okay. We do expect those ups and downs. It's completely to be expected. Week 4 is when the children are testing out their feared experiences. So we expect sometimes that they'll go up, but the really important thing is that distance traveled over time. So we can see that we're seeing that really good improvement in that child's anxiety. And then we can also see here, so that was focusing on his separation anxiety, but we can also see that even though we weren't focusing on these other types of anxiety, they also came down over that 6-week period. So his generalized anxiety fell, his panic symptoms fell, his social phobia fell. He didn't really have an issue with OCD at all to begin with, but that went to nothing. And then also we know that quite often when a child is anxious, they will also be showing signs of low mood, but that mood improved as well. His depression score fell as well. And then we've got at the end, his total anxiety fell quite dramatically, and also so did his total anxiety and depression score. So some fantastic outcomes for this young person. But what really matters to the young person is and their family is those goals they're working towards. So this young person wanted to worry less about leaving mummy, and in first week he rated that that goal as at a 0. But by the end of module 6, he rated that goal at around a 6. So we can see he's making really good progress towards that goal. And the magical thing about the WOWSI intervention is that you will keep on seeing, we hope, but the control trial shows us you will keep on seeing improvements even after the intervention has been completed, because the family have learnt lots of skills and strategies. And then his second goal was to worry less about school, and you can see he'd achieved that by session 4. He was 10 out of 10. He was worrying less about school, so that's fantastic. And then just another child just to touch on. So this child, you can see their anxiety didn't fall quite as much over the course of the intervention, but we saw some really, but it did still fall, but we saw some wonderful outcomes in terms of her goal-based outcomes. So we can see here again, her separation anxiety definitely fell over the course of the intervention, but for her goals were met just so beautifully, and it must have made such an impact on her and her family's life. So her first goal was to be able to go to sleep alone for most nights of the week. And when her parent asked her at the beginning, how close do you feel to that? She said 0. And by session 4, she felt she'd achieved that. She was going to sleep most nights of the week on her own, which is just such a change, you know, by week 4. And then her second goal was, so this young girl was too scared to go downstairs on her own in the morning. So mum was in the shower and she was kind of waiting and not getting dressed and not getting ready until mum had got ready, which then makes the morning very, very fraught for everybody, because then mum's got to get daughter dressed and ready to go. Whilst also then going downstairs getting breakfast. And so mum said, how are you feeling about being able to go downstairs on your own and just get ready for the day on your own? 0 week 1, but again by the end of the intervention she was at an 8 for that. So some really fantastic outcomes for her. But this was my favorite one, is the next one. So the goal was to be able to cope with mum going out for a Christmas works meal and grandma coming round and doing bedtime that night, even if grandma had to stay next to her to fall asleep. So week 1 of the intervention, the child was at a 0. No way, I don't want you to go to the party. I can't, you know, I can't go to sleep without you being in the house. It's not going to happen. Week 2, okay, maybe there's a slight chance of it happening. Week 3, mum went to the Christmas party, child went to sleep, and now she is able to continue to allow mum to go out and have an evening, have those evenings at home with grandma. So for that family, that outcome is just fantastic, and you can see how quickly that was able to happen. And so we've had some amazing outcomes already. We've had some verbal feedback from schools as well about children who have never come into school at the beginning of the day through the main entrance with the other children, and they were coming in a side entrance, 5 or 10 minutes later, who within 3 or 4 weeks of doing the intervention were coming in and separating from mum on the doorway beautifully in the morning. And actually it was whole families that were impacted, not just the child doing the intervention, but siblings were also able to come in the main door as well. So it was just amazing to hear some of these. So I'm hoping that we will see similar outcomes with your cohort as well. So what are we offering with WOWSI? It's just a reminder really that we are offering a fully funded access to the training for 1 member of staff per school, and also fully funded access to the intervention platform, and you'll be able to have access to that until July 2026. We are also going to be providing continued support in the form of regular skills groups. So those are those supervision type groups that I talked about before, and also a community of practice. So kind of an online community where you can find lots of information to support your practice around WOWSI, but also next academic year, we're hoping to have a WOWSI conference that will bring everybody who's been working on the project together to share the successes that we've had. We will also maintain our WOWSI Padlet, which I'll be showing you shortly, to make sure that everybody's got all the information they need to access in one place. And also you will have access to internet support via the COA help desk. So COA are the organisation that we have bought the licenses for Aussie from, and they provide an excellent online support service. So if you ever had any difficulties with the online platform, or a parent had difficulties, there's an email address you can contact at COA, and they're brilliant at getting back to us. They have various workers in different time zones across the world, actually. So we find that whatever time a parent contacts them and says, I can't get on the platform, they do get back quite quickly. And they've been able to sort out 100% of the difficulties that people have had. And then also in certain circumstances, we have been able to secure funding to train a member of our early help dedicated schools team to act as facilitators on behalf of schools in particular circumstances. So if you're one of those schools here today, you will know that you have nominated to have a early help dedicated schools team facilitator, and they're generally are very, very small schools who have very small numbers of staff, so wouldn't have capacity to be able to carry out the intervention if we weren't providing the facilitator. So in return for the offer, we are asking schools, and I think, as I said, lots of you have already returned your agreements to Laura. So we're asking schools to do to sign up really to these stipulations of the project. So those schools, so the majority of schools who have your own facilitator being trained, we ask that your school ensures that the person who is being trained is able to access the 2-day online training uninterrupted as far as possible. So it is quite an intense 2 days of training online, and it can be very difficult if the person is being pulled away for something in school, or they're being interrupted. So we do ask that they are given space to be able to carry out that 2 days of training. Last time for phase 1, some of our schools were able to let their facilitator work from home on those 2 days, just so they could ensure they weren't interrupted. But obviously, if they are working from home, you need to be sure that they'll be able to have their clear access to internet that day. So it's up to you, but just think about what's the best way that you can ensure that person is going to have access to the training as far as possible. We know you can't guarantee it 100%, but as far as possible, uninterrupted for those 2 days. Also, we're asking schools to ensure their staff member is able to attend the skills groups. So these are a really important part of the project, because they ensure that everybody is supported to run this intervention. We know that generally it is run by CAM services, and they will have clinical supervision, which is the way that they ensure safe practice. And so we want to make sure that you are being safely supported to undertake the intervention, that you don't feel you're out there on your own. And so for the first 6 weeks, the skills groups are fortnightly. They last an hour. And then after that, for the duration of the project, the skills groups run on a monthly basis. And hopefully in the next week or so, you will be matched up with your skills group coordinator, your local expert, and they will be able to give you the times and the days of your skills group sessions. Don't worry if you have skills group sessions that you say, oh, I can't go to any of these. Just get in touch with Laura and I through the WOWSI inbox, and we can shuffle people around in groups and make sure everybody's got skills groups that they can attend. We also ask that you identify suitable families and carry out a minimum of 2 interventions per term, and that you also collate and fill out our West Sussex evaluation at the beginning and end of each intervention. We're going to be talking about that a little bit more in depth in a moment, but essentially the platform itself collates a lot of information and data from the parents, and that is very clinical data around the child's presentation of anxiety. But within West Sussex, we wanted to look at those school-based outcomes, so we asked schools to fill out a separate evaluation for us as well, but more about that in a moment. Schools with a dedicated schools team facilitator, you won't be doing the training because your dedicated schools team facilitator will be doing the training for you on your behalf, but you will still need to identify 2 families per term for the intervention. And it's going to be your role to have that initial conversation with families about what the intervention is. So we will be giving you lots of information via the Padlet for that, and just gain their consent to share their details with the West Sussex coordinator, so with your dedicated schools team facilitator. Once that's happened, you can then provide the facilitator with the contact details of the parent, brief background of what's going on for the family, and they will take over from there. They'll be in touch again at the end of the intervention, and they will also be in touch if there are any difficulties. So if the parent isn't turning up to sessions, if the parent isn't doing the online, not going through the online sessions themselves, they will come back to you, and hopefully, because you've got a relationship with the parents, together you'll be able to resolve any barriers to them carrying out and accessing the intervention. So I'm sure you're all wondering, for those of you who have asked for a dedicated schools team facilitator, we have matched you up with a facilitator, and they will be in touch with you after the training. So you don't need to worry if you don't hear from them. They'll be in touch with you in April, and hopefully you will have identified a family, and you'll be able to have that conversation with them around what's going on for that family, and they'll be able to pick up the work with that family. So Slinden, you have got 2 workers with you who are going to be sharing the jobs. You've got Mandy and Hayley. Whisper of Green, I've got Nicola. The Gattons, I've got Rachel, and Ashurst, I've got Andrea. I think some of these people are here with us today. So you might see their names on the list. But we are really, really pleased to be working with our colleagues in Early Help on this project. It's been fantastic to work in that cross service way. So this is the fun bit. Identifying your first family is when it really does become very real. So I want you now, right now, to hold in mind any families that might fit this criteria in your school. So we want a family that's got a child aged 5 to 11. And their primary difficulty is around anxiety, fears, worries, or phobias, which are outside of the normal developmental expectations. So, for example, it's very normal for a child in reception in that first term to have difficulty separating from their parent or carer. That's developmentally normal. But and you'll have much more information about this in the training, but it's when we are seeing the anxiety that is stopping the child from doing things that other children their age can do, that we would say that the difficulty, they're having an anxiety difficulty. This also includes just thinking about those children who perhaps have those early signs of EBSA type behaviours. So the child who comes in the morning and has got a tummy ache every day, or the child who beyond that beginning of reception has difficulty separating from mum, the child who the family say we have real trouble getting them to school. You will know those early signs of EBSA that you can spot in children. So any of those types of things are the children that we are looking for. And there's some of those examples. So yes, children who overthink and worry, children who are constantly checking in with adults and seeking reassurance. The family needs to be able to commit to 1 hour a week using the platform, plus the 20-minute check-in that they will have with you each week. And they need to have a goal they'd like to work towards. Don't worry about this too much, because in module 1 they will look at how to find a goal. But if it's we wouldn't suggest that you work with a family where they don't want anything to be different, where they're just kind of going along with it and they're quite happy. You know, their child is anxious, but they're not too worried about it, because actually they need to want to make change. So hopefully from that you've got a good idea of a couple of families in mind that you work with. So just thinking about those goals, what might be some examples of goals? So you saw some already that those children from phase 1 had identified, but it could be that they want to work towards feeling relaxed in new environments. So to go to a club or activity that they want to go to, but they haven't been able to. It might be that they want to be able to voice their worries. So the goal might be to keep a daily diary, or to talk with parents, or to identify somebody at school that they can talk to about their worries. It might be something that seems really simple, but actually the child's really struggling with. So to be able to say hello to other children when she arrives at Brownies each week, to be able to eat a packet of crisps from our crisp box at school. So this was an actual goal that I have seen that one family are working on at the moment, that are part of our phase 1. So there's some anxiety around eating food that is communally shared, and to be able to sit on chairs that make him feel a certain way. So these were all actual goals that I've taken from children that are working on WOWSI at the moment. I've just seen a question in the chat, which is around, what about a child who has suffered from trauma? So this is where things become a little bit more complex, and this will be addressed more. Okay, so Fran's picked up and said, what level of trauma? I was going to come to you, Fran, because Fran has actually used the Aussie platform as also one of our skills groups leads. Yes, Fran, do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, obviously it's probably not the right forum to be discussing the needs of the
Yeah,
child. I
exactly.
understand that. However, it is low level anxiety, and if the child's low level anxiety is coming from a place of where it's being maintained by behaviours, I don't know, I'm looking at actually, then yeah, this would be the correct intervention. If the presentation is coming directly from the trauma, then this wouldn't be the right intervention. So if you want to discuss that with me outside of the meeting, send me an email, then I can talk to you about it a bit further. That's absolutely fine.
Oh, that's lovely, Fran.
Okay.
Thank you. And also, what we do suggest is when you've completed your training, you've got that family in mind, that you don't start the intervention until you've gone to your first skills group, because then you can say, this is the family I'm thinking about starting the intervention with, and you can discuss that with your local expert in the skills group as well. Obviously, with those children who have suffered trauma, we need to be really mindful it's a parent-led intervention. So if the trauma is something that the family have shared, as thinking about whether that parent is in the right place to do a parent-led intervention too. But yeah, hopefully Fran has covered that, but be able to talk to you. Thanks, Fran. So that's the kind of outlook of the kind of broadly the families that are suitable for WOWSI. But we have, and this has been validated by Kathy Creswell and her team, we have got a really simple 2-item screening tool. And this basically decides for you whether or not a family is suitable for the intervention. So first question, do fears, worries or anxiety upset or distress your child? And do your child's fears, worries or anxiety make things difficult for your family as a whole? And that is the the bottom line really about whether the child is suitable for the intervention or not. So you can see a score of 3 or more says that they are suitable for the intervention. That shows there's an indication of anxiety difficulties. So a child could be at a 3 for do fears and worries or anxiety upset or distress your child, yes, a great deal, and it might not be impacting on the family as a whole, but they would still be suitable for the intervention. Also, the other way around. So a child might not be distressed by their worries. It might be only a little, so it might be 1. But if it's having quite a lot of impact on the family, they again would still be suitable for the intervention. So you'll be able to access this tool. I'm going to show you the Padlet shortly, and that is the way that we have been advised by Kathy's team to just make sure that this is an anxiety difficulty we're looking at here. But there are also other, if you wanted to kind of dig a bit more deeply, you can also, if you're not really sure if the family is going to be engaged with the intervention, you can also use this sheet here, which I'm going to show you on the Padlet now, which is around gaining the parent's voice. I'm just going to stop sharing the slides so I can share with you now the Padlet website. I think most of you have already been sent the link to the Padlet previously, but you will be sent it again after this. So the Padlet looks like this, and it is our kind of one-stop shop for all things WOWSI. And the reason we set up a Padlet is it's very difficult for us to share our SharePoint with people from outside of West Sussex, but we can. Oh, it's gone funny. It's logged me out. But we can share the Padlet, and you can see here that we've got a whole array of documents, but once you get used to it, it's quite easy to navigate. So before starting the intervention, so this is the point you're at now, and you will find, if it's going to open, you will find, there we go, the 2-item screening tool. Actually, that is not in. There we go. Open post. You'll find the 2-item screening tool. You can save it, you can print it, and you have got it for you there. You will also find the gaining the voice of the parent and carer sheet that I just talked about. So this is if you have done this 2-item screening tool and you're like, I'm not really quite sure if this really is around anxiety, you can have a further discussion with the parent around kind of what's the main difficulty that they'd like help with, what is the problem, when and where does the problem happen for the child, how is your child coping. It just has that richer conversation around how the family is experiencing anxiety, but you don't necessarily have to use that one. We've got a script for approaching parents and carers. So although on the script it says I've recently been trained in Aussie, what you would say is at the moment I'm going to be trained in Aussie, or we've got a West Sussex early help facilitator who's going to be trained in Aussie on our behalf, and we just want to talk to you about it. And it goes through literally, you don't have to use the script, but some people have found it really helpful to explain what the intervention is, explain what cognitive behavioural therapy is, to explain that it's an online intervention. It's got all of the information you need here. And then again, there is the 2-item screening tool again. And then it's got some questions that the parents might have. So what if they're concerned that this is a parent-led intervention? So we have had parents in the past, not necessarily for WOWSI because they know, but when our practitioners have worked with the child, with the parent rather than the child, we'll quite often have the parent saying, well, why are you working with me, or why aren't you working with that child? So we've got some just points to discuss with the parent. You know, the research tells us that parent-led CBT is just as effective as one-to-one work with a child. In fact, we see outcomes are achieved more quickly. Parents know their child best and are a much better place to work with their child than a clinician. And then it just tells you what you're going to do next, but you wouldn't do this next until after you've had the training. So you just have the conversation for now so that you've got that family in mind, but after the training it has got your next steps there. And then also for before the intervention, we've got this leaflet that you are very welcome to share with parents, which just summarises up what is WOWSI and what have parents said about WOWSI and a summary of it and an overview as well. And you can also share this overview, not just with parents, but you can also share it with your colleagues in schools. So if you would like your colleagues to think about children in their classes, then you can share this with them so they've got a good understanding as well. There's another overview there for parents. And then we also have an introductory letter to explain the intervention to them and what we're doing. And if I come out of this now, and then you will see, so that's before starting the intervention, and then you'll see we've also got our WOWSI newsletters are here. We've got everybody's skills group list. So that's for phase 1. Your skills group lists will be added there shortly. And then we've got our parent pack for the evaluation that I'm going to come on and talk about in a moment. I've got our timeline for schools. You'll see that on the slide for the moment as well, but as you can see, everything that you could need really is right here, apart from the training handbook, which you will get as the training. We've got a copy of the school agreements that, as I said, most of you have already completed. Thank you very much. We've got our class teacher evaluation that I'm going to come on to. If you're a West Sussex, if you're a school that's got a West Sussex facilitator doing the intervention for you, there's a tab for you here with all of the information you'll need. And then we have got information from the Parent Carer Forum about the extra support they're offering. And I'm just trialing here. It's nonsense because I was trying it myself. We're just trying a question and answer forum as well to see if we've got a quick way that people can chat to each other about how it's going. And then we've got upcoming events. So that's your list there of which training group you're a part of. So as you can see, everything is on the Padlet. We did have one school last term who couldn't access the Padlet through their school systems. So do let me know if you can't access it. They had to use their home phone to access it, and we had to kind of print everything out for them and send them, and that's not a problem. But if we did have a number of schools who couldn't access it, then we would look at how we offer support. I'm going to come back to my slides now. Okay, so we've talked about what the project is about and the expectations that you can have of us and the expectations we have of schools. We've talked about how we can just start to think about holding those families in mind, and we've talked about what's on the Padlet. So we would also like to talk to you about the evaluation of the project, and we've got Fran with us, who, as we said, is leading on the project, is leading on the evaluation of the project. But really, as I said earlier, we're doing this in-house evaluation in addition to the clinical evaluation that's been carried out by Coa Health. And that's because we really want to be able to commission the continuation of the project. It says of the problem there, but it should say of the project. So we want to show that it's working, so that we can show our commissioners that it's working, and that we want to continue to be able to fund access to the platform into the future for all of you and for other schools as well. And so we're starting from our hypothesis, which is that participation in WOWSI will not only improve those clinical outcomes of anxiety for children, but will also increase school staff understanding of childhood anxiety, fears and worries, increase school staff confidence in working with parents and carers to address child anxiety, and also will reduce the early signs of emotionally based school avoidance. So what we want to look at, and we also are interested in the outcomes in terms of school-based outcomes. So what we're going to be looking at in terms of our evaluation is school staff knowledge, the child's presentation in school. So lots of the data that's collected through the platform is around the child's presentation at home because the parents are filling it in. But we'd like to know about their presentation in school, and then also the child's own perception of their difficulties. Fran, do you want to come in and add anything around the evaluation, and then I'll explain the process?
Yeah, I think it's hard to understand at the moment because you've not done the training, but the parent completes the checklist that Vic shared at the beginning, which is where the data about the goal-based outcomes came from. And they're just standard as they do the preparation on the platform and do the work with their child. So that happens behind the scenes. You don't have to worry about that at all. You might look at it, but you don't have to worry about it. The education evaluation is where we ask the parent to complete a couple of forms, and we also ask the class teacher to complete one form because we're interested to see whether the child actually is less internalized in class. And we also ask you for some data about attendance and lates, and we give you clear information about it, and we want that before the intervention starts and also at the end of the intervention. We are working with the University of the practitioners move. I think we're working with the University of Sussex, aren't we? I think she's moved to East Anglia in the meantime.
Yes.
Yeah. With the research clinic, and we will be writing up an article for a journal as well. And as Vic has said, our data has been quite remarkable already because we're using the staff in school know the parents, or so it's fascinating really just to look at the impact of the relationships. So yeah, so this this evaluation pack that we're going to talk about now, it's actually quite straightforward in reality, and it's just really important data that we're collecting. So thank you as well for supporting with this data collection. But we have worked very hard to try and make it as simple as possible, haven't we?
We have.
Well,
yes.
so yeah. So just don't don't get worried when you hear about sort of clinical data, because you won't have to do that.
No, not at all. Thanks, Fran. So basically what we ask you to do is at the beginning of each intervention, so before the parent has started any of the work, you will go onto the Padlet, or you'll be sent it as well, I think, from Amelia, weren't they, Fran?
Yeah, we send it via email to everybody individually. Yeah.
Amazing. So you'll get it. You don't even have to find it. And you will get sent a parent pre-intervention evaluation pack. So you print it off, give it to the parent, they give it back to you, and then you will go on to WOWSI, and just each child has a numeric ID on the platform. You just write that on and scan it and send it back to us. And then there's also, and I'm going to show you this in a second, a class teacher pre-intervention evaluation pack that similarly you print it, give it to the class teacher, they hand it back, scan it and send it back to us with the child's numeric ID on it.
Sorry to interrupt, but we call it a pack, but actually the teacher's filling in one really short form.
They are,
so so it sounds kind of more than it is, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I will show you the form now on the Padlet just while we're here. So if I come across, so under evaluation documents, you will see school. So this is what you're going to print out for the child who's having the intervention. It's that class teacher that does that. So again, you can see here, you get their numeric ID from WOWSI, which each child is given on there, the date. And then at the beginning of the intervention, we're looking at the percentage of lates that they've got so far, and the percentage of absences that they've collated so far this year. Oh, this is the post. Hang on, I'm going to go back to the pre. There we go. I was getting ahead of myself. So sorry. So at the beginning of the intervention, again, you write down, class teacher writes down the percentage of lates since the beginning of the academic year, percentage of absences, and then we look at this. So the school anxiety scale. So the child's class teacher thinks about the last 3 months of this school year and fills in these questions for the child. Hopefully it'll just take them a few minutes to fill it out.
Yeah, and then that's it. And it's a
they hand it back to
form.
you. Yeah. They hand it back to you, scan it and send it back to our evaluation team, but you will be emailed by Amelia, who's running the evaluation. And then similarly, at the end of the intervention, the parent has a pack that they fill out again to be scanned and sent back, and then the class teacher sends the updated percentage of lates and absences. And then there's a couple more questions because we asked them, has there been an improvement in the child's presentation in the morning? So for example, were they coming in and they were quite distressed in the mornings? Has there been an improvement when they're coming into school and then into the classroom? And then they did it.
The reason we're asking those two questions is because obviously when you get a standardized questionnaire, it doesn't necessarily ask the things that you want to ask. And the feedback from the first phase is that there were immediately some changes seen in children coming in the main entrance or coming into class straight away. So we thought it'd be helpful just to capture that, because it might be that we don't actually capture a change on the questionnaires. It might somebody's still at us sometimes, or the question's not being asked. So that's why we've put that in.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Fran. And they fill out the same questionnaire again, so we can see the journey travelled. And that's it. You scan it and send it back to us along with the parents post-intervention as well. So as Fran said, it looks quite complicated on there but it is very simple. And Fran's assistant psychologist, Amelia, will be in touch and talk you through it and be able to make sure you've got the forms at the right stage of pre-intervention and then post-intervention. But yeah, it really helps us out because it ensures that we are showing that that the intervention is working and that we can continue to offer this to schools. Just going to come back to the slides. So I've put together a suggested timeline for phase 2 schools. You don't have to stick to it rigidly. It's just so that in your head you can kind of see where we're going up until the end of this academic year. So today we're in March 25 pre-training webinar, and you're going to start thinking about those families for the first intervention, and you might print off that information letter from the Padlet just to show the parent what is the intervention before you do the training, just so they've got a sense. And then you have got your training. So there's 2 days. You're in 2 groups. So one group is doing the training the Wednesday and I think the following Tuesday, and the other group are doing the training of the first Thursday back and the following Wednesday. But you should know which group you're in. If you don't know which group you're in, please do get in touch with Laura. Just to say, the link itself for the training doesn't come from us. It comes from Coa Health. So you will be sent that separately. It might come on the Monday, or it won't be the Monday because it's bank holiday. It might come on the Tuesday, the 21st. So don't worry too much. I'm hoping they will get it out before that, but we will make sure you have it before the training starts. And then from the week commencing the 5th of May, you'll be able to confirm your first family, complete the paperwork that we've just shown you, and then go to your first skills group and just discuss, this is the family that we've got in mind. Do we think this is a good family to work with? Hopefully everyone will kind of, the local expert will be able to say, yeah, that looks great. And then from the following week, you'll be able to start your first session 0, get the parent logged in and get them going. And so because it's 6 weeks, of the intervention, that will look to you ending your first intervention if you did follow this suggested timeline around the end of June. And then we kind of wouldn't suggest that you pick up another family because you're going to be leaving it over the summer, unless you wanted to kind of start an intervention, then let the family do some of the work over the summer. You'd be welcome to as well. But we're only expecting you to work with one family this academic year, and then next academic year we're looking at those 2 families per term. You can run them concurrently or you can run them back to back. It's entirely up to you how you do it. Obviously, we do have some flexibility around the number of families you're working with. You can do as many as you like. It's a minimum of 2 families. If you're struggling to find 2 families per term, do get in touch with us, and we can help you and just have a conversation around perhaps not having that many, or perhaps helping you to identify families. So my key takeaways from today, first of all, don't worry. On those 2 training days that you come to, they are very full on. It's a lot of information to take in, but you will be in a very supportive environment. And all of our previous school facilitators who have taken part in the training said that once they went away, digested and printed off the manual, they found the sessions actually were really quite easy to work through because you're just doing one session at a time. Do share any information from the Padlet with any suitable families, about suitable families with your colleagues, so that they can think about the children in their class and think, actually, this might be a really good family to work with. And then, like I said, start to think about that suitable family for the first intervention. I've already mentioned the links will be sent to you for the training before the session. I'm hoping to remind them that we are working in schools, so it'd be nice to have it before the Easter holidays. But Laura and I will make sure you absolutely do have it before the session. And then if you are a school who has opted to have the dedicated schools team facilitator, you will receive an email from them introducing themselves to you. Before they start work with their first family, but it might be that is during that week of their first training, or they might get in contact with you this side of Easter. If you need supply cover funding, because we have offered this, we've offered supply cover funding for the 2 days of training, do get in touch with Laura at WOWSI, and she will absolutely be able to help you to go through that process so that we can make sure that you're reimbursed for any supply training. I can see Joanne's got her hand up. You're on mute, Joanne.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just taking it off.
Thank you.
So I'm with the dedicated schools team as well, and
Yes.
my manager has told me that I'm going to be supporting Whisper Green alongside Nick as well.
Amazing.
So yeah, I wasn't on the list, so
brilliant. I will add you on. Thank you, Joanne.
And also, can I just confirm the training dates? So I've got the 23rd and 29th of April in my calendar. But my colleague Nick, she had the 23rd cancelled for some reason. So I think there was a bit of.
So I've had some backwards and forwards.
Bit of a mix-up.
Yeah, I've had some backwards and forwards with some of your team managers. I think some of your team couldn't do certain days. So to clarify, day 1 of training for group 1 is the 23rd, and day 2 of training for group 1 is the 29th. Day 1 of training for group 2 is the 24th of April, and day 2 of training for group 2 is the 30th of April. I will catch up with yourself and Nicola and just check that you've both got 2 days and you've both got a day 1 and a day 2.
All right then, thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. Okie dokie. So I have said everything I need to say, but if anybody has any questions or comments, please do either type them in the chat, or you are very welcome to unmute. I'm hoping that's given you some things to think about. We will send you the slides and also the link to the Padlet again, so that you've got everything. But we're really excited to be carrying on to phase 2 of the project. As I said, we've found some really brilliant outcomes so far from phase 1, and we're really confident that you will have similar experience as well. And also, you're very welcome to ask any questions via the WOWSI inbox. But otherwise, I will let you all go. Thank you very, very much. It's been really lovely to see you, and hopefully we will see everybody in April.
Thanks.